Start your business for the freedom of time. Now you're tired of the hustle and grind. There's gotta be a better way. It's time to listen to Chill and Prosper. Welcome to Chill and Prosper. You're ready to chill and prosper with Denise Duffield-Thomas.
Hey gorgeous, it's Denise here for Chill and Prosper. This week we are talking about other people's money stuff. And as you go through your money journey, you might have started working on your money mindset and working through your money blocks, but other people's money stuff is derailing you. So I've got some juicy questions that have come in around partners' money blocks and parents' money blocks and best friends and all of these juicy things. This is also the topic we're talking about on in our Money Bootcamp live calls this month. So if you're not in Money Bootcamp, please come and join us. You can find out all the details at denisedt.com/bootcamp. We do the live calls 2 different time zones at the end of the month, and we always go into the most juicy directions you can imagine. But I've had a couple of questions that, well, actually, to be honest, this is probably one of the things that I get the most questions about. People will email me or DM me and say, what do I do about this situation? Okay, so let me just read out some of them. So one of the, I get this version so much of like, how do I deal with my partner's money blocks? They're very negative about money. Okay, that's probably the most common question I get about these things. And I want to tell you that you're not alone. And there's a couple of big things to remember around this, okay, is that when you are in the personal development conversation, and maybe you are in Money Bootcamp, maybe you listen to my podcast, or you've read my books, that you know that there is something else out there. You know that you can change your mindset around money. And that's the thing that people tell me the most when I meet them. They say, thanks for helping me change my mindset about money, or to feel better about money, feel more confident talking about money, right? Normalizing this conversation. So if you're in that conversation, but your partner isn't, you can get very frustrated with them because you're like, how do you not see that there are these possibilities out there? How can you not see that I could make more money, or, that we could break free of like what we thought was possible to make for ourselves? Because you're seeing it and you're seeing that it's possible, and that was so key for me in my early days of business, is seeing people who are making money and just going, what? You can make money doing that? Maybe I can do that. Maybe. And if your partner is not in that conversation, it just feels completely alien to them, And so a big scenario I see is one partner who has a corporate job and one partner who is an entrepreneur. And particularly in that situation, I often see very different money personalities too. One is like a bit more like maybe frugal or sensible or methodical about money. And then one person is just like, yeah, money comes, money goes, whatever. There's always more money, you can manifest more. And those two personalities are very interesting because they do not understand each other at all, right? It's just so alien to both of them to think you can just trust that money will come in. And the other person's like, why would you want to like sit down and like look at a spreadsheet? What's wrong with you? So that is such a common scenario I see. But if you're on the more creative side, you have to have that compassion that they are not seeing it. It's not normalized for them to see normal people become millionaires. So of course they're not going to believe it's possible. They literally don't see it for themselves. They don't have the evidence for it. So I think when it comes to these situations where you feel lonely, you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to about money, you have to watch where you're trying to get validation. Okay, this is a very, very key point, because you can be wanting to talk to your partner because you want them to encourage you to do it too. You want them to see like, oh my God, look at this person, they've made so much money. And they're going, well, that sounds like a scam. How are they doing that? You actually want them, I think, secretly to go, well, you can do it as well. Maybe it's possible for you. And some people have partners like that where they're just like, you can do that too. But a lot of people don't. And then you feel deflated and you feel like, oh, and you want to make sure that as you are working through your own money stuff, you have people who are in the arena with you, right? They know and they understand what that feels like. So when I first started my business, like I I remember just like having those little freakouts that are really normal in business. Like you have those little confidence things, and you're scared about sending invoices, just like really simple stuff, but it feels big. And I remember Mark just like going, wow, you seem really stressed. Maybe you should just go get a job, and I was like, but no, I don't want to. But because he didn't understand all those little things that I was scared about, it just like I didn't feel like I was getting that support, and I needed somebody to have that. So it's really, really important, not only at the start of your business, but to have all of those times in your life at every stage of your business where you do have similar people to talk through those things with that other people wouldn't understand, and to encourage you and to see that for you. And that doesn't, like, that shouldn't just be your partner or your family. Okay. I remember actually at the very start of my business, I didn't have that many people to talk to about it. And I was just like telling everyone. I remember having a chiropractor, not my current one, but I would just try and get validation from him. And I'd be like, oh, look at my business. And I made this much money this month. And I remember him getting a bit triggered by it. And I was like, oh, I just want someone to give me a gold star. That's what I really want in this conversation. But you can't do it. Okay. Let's talk about other people's money blocks in your community or in your industry. Okay. Because this is a big one too. A question I get all the time of, like, I want to increase my prices, but there's an industry standard. What do I do about that? What do I do about this industry standard? And what I find is, depending on the industry, there can be like one person whose money blocks dominate, or there can just be really entrenched money blocks in particular industries. Okay, so let's talk about the health world, for example. I find a lot of people, when they become like naturopaths, for example, in that kind of field, part of the training almost is, I hope you're not doing this to make money. Like, it's almost building that martyrdom into the industry where you have to suffer and serve, and you're not allowed to get anything in return. You're not allowed to receive money for this. Well, you certainly won't be rich from it, right? That's the messaging that comes into some industries, that's built into the training. However, sometimes other industries, like, it's being like gate kept by a particular person or their particular energy. And I remember hearing this like locally with someone who is a musician, and he said, I can't charge more than this because this is what our mentor told us we should charge. And I said to him, that's cool, but like, that could be quite outdated. Sometimes people are just like, well, that's enough for me. And I'm like, you can actually charge whatever you like. You don't have to charge what they're charging. But it's really tricky when it's someone who's a mentor and they feel like they have that authority, but also that their opinion is based on something. When someone goes, well, this is the industry standard, and you think, oh, that sounds really official. That sounds so official, like the industry standard, but it's made up by somebody. All pricing is pretty much made up by somebody, and they go, this is what we charge. And then it can be tricky sometimes to break free from that, and to go, oh, and I'll admit that my first coaching sessions, I was like, what's everyone else charging? Oh, they look a bit more experienced than me, but maybe I'm a bit more experienced than them, not realizing what was going behind the scenes of their choices around their pricing, which could have maybe nothing to do with me and my expertise and who I want to serve. Okay, so watch that that other people aren't influencing what you can charge. Okay, now when it comes to family, I find this is really interesting. Where could your family's money blocks be impacting your life? Okay, now it might not even be current, but say, for example, your family's money stuff might be influencing the career that you chose. Oh my God, that could be a whole conversation itself. I've met people who have said, I want to be this, but my family wants me to be that. Or everyone in my family is an accountant, and so the idea of me becoming an artist is so scary because I've been told implicitly and explicitly that creatives don't make money. So how am I supposed to do this? And then it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of becoming that starving artist, because you go, well, that's a legitimate job. Being an accountant is a legitimate job. Being an artist is not a legitimate job. So how can I charge for this? Because this is a hobby and I'll never make any money from it, you know? And so that's the tricky thing when you have to look at your own money stuff. What's mine and what is someone else's? Interesting, right? What is my money stuff? Because we're all going to have our own money blocks for sure. And what is someone else's money blocks? And especially when it comes to family, you've got to look at what is just ingrained in my family lineage and where do I want to do something different? Because sometimes we copy unwittingly money blocks. Sometimes the pendulum swings the other way and we go too far. And that could be like, you know, you have a really frugal family upbringing and then you spend all your money, you know, and sometimes those patterns are really, really hard to see. What is mine and what is someone else's? Okay, so I've got some questions that have come in, specific questions. So I'll answer that after this quick break. See you in a sec. Okay, welcome back. We're talking about dealing with other people's money blocks, and that is the topic for this month's bootcamp call, where we go through my process of how to identify the root causes of some of these blocks and what to do to clear them as well. So if you really love this conversation, you know other people's money stuff is impacting you, come and join us on Money Bootcamp this month and join in time for the call. All details of that are at denisedt.com/bootcamp, and we'll really dive deep into that. Okay, so this is such a juicy question, and it's a hard one. How do you deal with losing friendships as you become more successful? Okay, so I won't go into all the little bits, but some of my friendships of over 30 years are dying as I earn more money and become more successful. I had a 6-figure year last year, got a podcast award, and nobody wanted to celebrate with me, and I feel the grief of it. The people that thought would support you don't, and how strangers are your biggest cheerleaders. How do you deal with that? This is such, if you talk to any successful person, they'll have stories about this. And I definitely have experienced this as well, like at the start of my business and different points in my business. And there's no real good advice here except that it will happen, but also I can see where it happened in my experience is I didn't have enough entrepreneurial friends to share all of those things with. So I was sharing things in friendship groups where they probably just didn't relate, or it just wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't where they were at for no fault of their own. A lot of my friends at the start of my business were in corporate careers, and I probably wasn't like as compassionate for where they were at in their career as well. So if I was to do that again, I would make sure that I had more entrepreneurial friends so I could share with people who could hear it, you know, who could hear it in that way for me. And sometimes your friendships are for a reason and some of them are for a season. You've heard this before, right? And I've definitely had friendships where it was like a seasonal thing, you know, like university friends or friends, you know, mum friends at a particular time. And then as you grow and change, you don't have as much in common. And that doesn't mean any friendship has failed. It just means it was for a season in your life. Sometimes it's for a reason. Some friendships teach you a particular thing, and then it's, you know, and some friendships endure. I've got friends who are not in business. We don't talk about business, but we can see each other once every couple of years and pick up exactly where we left off. And so make sure that when you are growing, of course we want our friends to celebrate us, but they maybe just don't get it sometimes, the things that are like that you can be excited about in business. And that's okay. Okay, that's fine. But also it is the case sometimes that some people cannot handle you growing and changing. And some people want to keep you in a box and they want to see you in a particular way. And it can make them feel discombobulated, I love that word, to see you growing and changing, because it can remind them that they are not growing and changing. And that's okay too. It's okay too. I don't want you to feel like it shouldn't be lonely. You know, it shouldn't be lonely as you grow, because always be looking for people who are growing with you, right? And this is where joining masterminds important, joining communities are important, because you'll always then like be around people who are experiencing similar issues to you. You know, that's why I think business masterminds can be great too, because I remember where the first time, you know, I had like legal issues around something, I was in a mastermind of high level business women, and they could say, oh, when that happened to me, this is what I did. And even just that is so validating. When that happened to me, this is what I did. But also, as you become more successful, and sometimes you have like rich people problems, it's not relatable to people who are struggling, right? And that's fine too. But being able to have friendships where you're like, this happened to me, like, and they're not going to go, oh, you rich lucky bitch, why are you complaining, you're so privileged. They can just be like, well, when that happened to me. And actually that was so useful for me recently when I met up with someone who's a billionaire, and for her to be like, oh, when that happened to me, or when that happened to my clients, I was like, oh my God, thank God, because there was some issues where I was like, this isn't relatable to some of my business friends, like this is a rich person problem that would make me sound very out of touch. So big hugs if anyone has had that experience, or losing friendships, or you fear losing friendships and that's why you're not growing. Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who can at least see you, cheerlead you, give you that, like sometimes give you that wayfaring thing of like, this is where, this is what's going to happen. And they can understand and appreciate. Okay. And I know it sucks. Sometimes you just want your family member or your friends to just go, well done, babe. And they might not always give you that. Yeah. Okay. So a similar kind of question is, how do you keep that like positivity going with someone who's a different character? My husband doesn't know about law of attraction, talks from a place of our real situation. Try not to talk about lack and keep on a high vibration of wealth and overflow. How do I keep that momentum when we have these talks? And I totally get it, because I know how like deflating it feels to have those talks. And so let me just share a little bit about Mark and I. So Mark and I have been together since we're quite young. So Mark was 19, I was 23, 4 years older. And I've always been obsessed with personal development books, right? So I would always read books, and I didn't get success until, kind of into my 30s. So he saw it through all my 20s, where I was like just trying and reading all my law books. And what I noticed is that he had so many ingrained things about money where you'd say, oh, how much does that cost? And we can't afford it. And I was trying to be in that place of positivity and, possibility and all of those things. And I remember we were walking along the high street, and I always bought like secondhand clothes and all that stuff. And I looked in this window, I was like, oh my God, look at that coat. And he put his hands over my eyes and he like kind of dragged me away, and he said, don't even look. And I went, what? He said, don't even look. And I had to sit down and have a conversation with him and say, I'm not even allowed to look. I'm not even allowed to look. I'm not even allowed to dream, let alone go in and try something on. And it triggered me so much, because not necessarily because of what he said, but because how it made me feel and made me realize how many blocks I still had about money. I'm not even worthy of looking. And so rather than like blame him or even try and get him to change, I actually tried to come from a place of vulnerability, right? And another example here is he would look in the cupboard and say, there's nothing to eat. And I would go into this feast or famine panic. Like I could feel the adrenaline and stress running through my whole body, because we came from very different upbringings, both single parents, but Mark's mom like shows her love with food and abundance of food. My mum, we never had a lot of food in the house. We very much had that feast or famine kind of thing. We moved a lot. We never had, we just like some families just build up bulk of stuff and like I'll buy a big kilogram of rice or whatever. My mum always is like just what I need at the time. And she's like that with cooking now. She'll go buy like 1 carrot, 1 onion, like just buy what she needs for that one particular meal. And so when the cupboard gets too full, and this actually happens because we have a housekeeper now who does the shopping, when the cupboard is overflowing, it makes me feel so stressed, because I think, we might be moving next week. How are we going to take all this stuff? It feels too overwhelming. Whereas Mark can look at that same cupboard and go, there's nothing to eat. So having that conversation very early on in our marriage was like, when you say there's nothing to eat, if my mum ever said that, it meant there was literally nothing, like nothing in the cupboard, right? Whereas what you think is nothing, I could look at that and I could like, oh, we could eat for 3 weeks and I could make 50 meals out of that. And so it's literally one of those glass half empty, glass half full situations sometimes when you've got a scarcity thinker and an abundance thinker in a relationship. And so for me to be vulnerable to him and say, not like, don't say that because it's Denise said, don't say things like that. It was more of, when you say that, it makes me feel like a little kid who doesn't have anything to eat, and it stresses me out so much, and it makes me feel so scared. And for me to be vulnerable about that then led to us to be able to have a conversation about our different upbringings, about how our parents showed love, about that feast or famine kind of thing that, that I had in my childhood, and what our base level of nothing was. So interesting. And so I think that is that curiosity, right? And then I could, without like trying to make him do it, I do think he started to shift his language, because he would say, oh, we can't afford it. And I say, oh, can you not say that? Because that really makes me feel like we're going to be homeless on the street. And he'd go, okay. And then he just started picking up some of the things. And then we started to have our little like sayings. And one of the ones we started to say well before we had money was, lucky we're rich. Just to kind of like be funny and cute about it, like find, a coin on the street. I go, oh my God, lucky we're rich. And like, obviously, like we say that now, if something happens where we're just like, it's only money, we can fix it. It's like, lucky we're rich, right? But it didn't come from a place of blame or you're wrong or you should do this. It just came from those little places and realizing that my money mindset was my responsibility, and that I could change how I thought, and I could gently correct him and just say, hey, like, why don't we say this? And I hear so many people tell me that their partners have shifted their language just from some of those tips that I give, or listening to my podcast, or putting my book on in the background, or playing some of the audios around, without making them do it as well, without blaming them or thinking that they have to change. Change yourself, work on your own stuff, feel abundant in yourself. Okay, so hopefully those tips help. And what about boot camp? What's one of the things you've learned from boot camp?
To keep striving.
Yeah.
Those incremental upgrades are tremendous. The abundance, the unlimited abundance. To follow my passions and to feel confident in following them. I think that's probably my biggest takeaways.
So something that really helped me when I started noticing everyone else's money blocks, which is what will happen, right? If you read my books, come into Money Boot Camp, you start to see it everywhere. And sometimes thinking about other people's stuff is a real distraction, right? Because it's a distraction from doing your own work. And so a little tip that I do sometimes, when I can feel myself being influenced by someone else's money blocks, I imagine myself taking a pair of silver scissors and cutting the cords between us. Okay, if you love energy work, woo-woo work, you know about the concept of cutting cords. But I just literally kind of just like do a little snipping motion without them seeing. And I just think, yours is yours and mine is mine. And I'm not going to take on your stuff as well. I have enough money blocks. Like, even as a very successful multimillionaire, I have my own money blocks. I don't need to take on other people's as well. Okay. So I just imagine just like going snip, snip, snip. Another way you can imagine it is, imagine you're carrying around your money blocks in a little backpack. Okay. And it's manageable because you've got the tips and tools to deal with it. They don't have to derail you. But then you go to a family gathering or you meet up with old friends and they're giving you all of their money blocks too. So can you hold my backpack? Can you hold my backpack? Can you hold mine? And then suddenly you're holding everyone else's. So that's why I think I have mine, you have yours. That's fine. And yeah, having all those little tips to be able to go, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to take that on. Okay, so whether it is your family members, friends, best friends, partners, whatever it is, I want you, like, send me a message, send me a DM or send us an email. I'm at Denise DT on lots of social media platforms. Let me know, like, what situations are coming up with you around other people's money blocks. Is it your partner? Is it your parents? Is it your sister? Is it your brother? Because it's super, super common and you don't have to take on their stuff. And of course, if you want to come and join us for this month's conversation in Money Boot Camp about other people's money blocks and to really dig in how to deal with that, just go to denisedt.com/bootcamp. Come and join us in time for this month's call. All right, gorgeous. Well, thanks for joining me on Chill and Prosper, and I will see you on next week's episode, or I'll see you on our live call this month. Bye.
So I have done the money boot camp, and there's so many things I could share, but one of the things I loved is the incremental upgrades, and the idea that you start slow with the upgrades and it feels like it's going really slowly, and then all of a sudden it'll just be massive. And I just went, oh, okay, well, all right, let me do it. So the first thing I did was I got sunglasses, which I had a really beautiful pair of sunglasses like 8 years ago. And then one day I sat on them and I was like, that's it. Like, you're never getting any good sunglasses again. You don't deserve it because you just sat on this, and that's it. You're too responsible for it. So then I always had these crappy sunglasses, but I love sunglasses. So I got these sunglasses and I got 2 pairs. And actually the less expensive pair was an Anchor that I started having, cause they're like rose gold and they just like make me feel like hot and like I got my shit together. And, I've got this selfie of myself where every time I'm feeling a bit like wobbly, I'll look at that and be like, yeah, okay. So, I upgraded that and like just did the course, and then literally within probably six to 12 months at the very most, I think it was less than that, we bought the apartment next door. We have done an entire renovation of the whole place within a year, and it was like it started so small and then it just went like these massive opportunities came up that would never have been there before. So that's been incredible, and really just also like as a female, it never occurred to me that it's not a common thing to be like not only a breadwinner, but like running a company. And I was just like, oh, this is just what you do. And then just realizing there are so many things that you face that are not only you, like whether it be the tax thing or whether it be, oh, I can't make more money than like the male figures in my family. And like, just doing all that work to like see what's in the way, the negative consequences, has made a really big difference with that. So, yeah.
Start your business for the freedom of time. Now you're tired of the hustle and grind. There's gotta be a better way. It's time to listen to Chill and Prosper. Welcome to Chill and Prosper. You're ready to chill and prosper with Denise Duffield-Thomas.